AMHQ early. It is Friday, August 26, 2016. I'm meteorologist Jen Carfagno.
And I'm Innovators Rodriguez. We've made it to Friday. Yes. So let's get the day started with the weather info you need to start your day. Have we cracked the code, Jen?
Oh, I mean, Invest 99L. That's what she's Central Atlantic, and we've got plenty of time to, watch and see what happens with that next in the Central Atlantic, where it's expected to stay. Now, watching Invest 99L, here's where we are right now. You can see that there's some areas of convection or thunderstorm activity, but not as much as we saw the past couple of nights, right? The last two nights, every night there was a flare-up, and then during the day it got a little weaker. This really hasn't recovered overnight last night. In the short term, a 30% chance of developing. Over the next 5 days, it's a 60% chance of developing, according to the National Hurricane Center. We're still generally looking at this broad area here from the southern and central Bahamas, right up here through the Florida Straits, South Florida. All could see potential impacts from a tropical wave, and so we'll watch that in the coming days. Now, here's where we are right now. Again, we've got this area of high pressure building over the east. It's going to be the reason why we're so warm across a lot of the east for the next week or so. That area of high pressure is going to help steer whatever is Invest 99L, whether it's a tropical wave, whether it becomes a weak tropical storm, or more. But we're going to continue to watch that as being a significant factor. If there is a weakness in this area of high pressure, that would allow the Invest, or whatever it becomes, to turn a bit farther to the north. And so that's also something that we have to continue to focus on in the models to see how that's being handled. It's not just all about the track of the tropical wave or the low. It's actually a lot about the track of the high and the strength of the high. So looking at the models right now, again, there's a much broader spread than what we maybe had seen over the past couple of days, even in the short term, in terms of areas that could be impacted. Is it Gulf of Mexico that we'll be watching this thing? Is it just South Florida? Regardless of what happens to it, even if it develops or not, we're looking at a forecast for some rainfall on the order of inches across South Florida. 3 to 5 inches of rain will be common in spots, especially right on those eastern shores here of southeast Florida. This is where we're going to have that onshore flow for a couple of days, and that is going to keep us on the wet side here. In fact, already seeing some showers this morning. But still watching for some thunderstorms out there. Now, we start the day with more thunderstorms stretching from northern Missouri into central Illinois. Seems like the setup every day, right, for you guys to get some of this active weather. Nothing severe right now, but certainly something that we're going to watch for today. From eastern Colorado right into parts of Nebraska, and then straight across Kansas again. We do have that risk of storms. Hail is also a threat today. Like yesterday, you could see some larger hail, damaging winds, and there's an isolated tornado threat across this area. So here's what's happening. We've got some stronger upper level winds as the jet stream drops down and crosses into this area. We've got our boundary in place, lots of warm, moist air returning across the region. Little cold pocket of air aloft. That's what's going to help contribute to that hail formation as we take a look at storms later today. So this is our forecast radar. This is what we expect the radar to look like this afternoon and early evening. You can see Kansas City and St. Louis both could have a rainy Friday night. Keep that in mind for your plans. Wichita and points north here into Kansas, and maybe even up to Omaha by overnight. We'll be watching some storms tracking in. Chicago tomorrow morning, some showers and possible storms tracking in to your area as well. So for Kansas City, slight chance this morning of a couple showers like we see on the radar, but then we'll get a break. After lunch, a renewed chance of showers and storms for your Friday commute and your Friday night right here in Kansas City. Now, for other weather stories across the country, let's check in with Jen. You're taking a look at the Northeast. Yes, so we've got a warm day ahead, a humid day actually again today. Dew points all the way up into Maine. We're in the upper 60s, which is pretty humid for you guys. We're going to start in D.C., looking live at the nation's capital, where we start the day at 77 degrees. Very warm morning. You can look out over the city lights right now, courtesy of EarthCam. Temperatures today will be close to 100 before the day is over. Summer is still on here, full on across the area. Now, some schools are back in the D.C. area, but not all of them. So some of you may still be in summer mode, might be heading out to the Jersey Shore, heading out on that Atlantic City Expressway for the weekend. It is going to be a warm day, warm afternoon. A couple of showers are possible in parts of New England today. We actually have a little front coming through. You're not going to know it in terms of temperatures. You will get a little break in terms of humidity by tomorrow, especially in New England. Before today, we're going to 85 in Boston, going to feel like 91, going to feel like 96 in New York City. Very much summer-like here into the Northeast. And the reason is because of this big ridge and our jet stream, this area of high pressure. Talking about that and how it's going to help contribute to steering what's happening in the tropics. It's also going to be a big player in our weather over the next, not just weekend, but into next week, this pattern hangs on across the east. We've got a nice warm stretch of days coming up. If you like it warm, get ready for that in the east all the way into the end of next week. D.C. for tomorrow, we're still up there in the mid-90s. Again, with that little front that came through, that's going to help knock down our humidity a little bit for tomorrow, but it starts coming back by the time we get to Sunday, and that's out ahead of a next front that does bring in a couple of showers from western PA to western New York. That's your weekend in view. It is Friday. You might be in weekend mode, and we are going to be looking for some dry weather across the east, some warm weather. Temperatures are going to be running well above average. That's a trend that has already started yesterday and continues into next week across the east. So temperatures hit the 90s there into New York City. Storms, of course, in the middle, like we just talked about. By Saturday, that moves right here across the upper Midwest, the western lakes. A couple of scattered showers across eastern Texas, Louisiana. We can't shake this pattern either. And of course, focusing on Florida, where we could get some extra thunderstorms getting into your Sunday forecast here, regardless of what happens in the tropics. We're looking at the chance for rain in Florida this weekend. The situation here right across the upper Midwest and central plains. We've got rain out there this morning in Wichita, heavy at times to the north and west of town. Some heavy rain now around the Kansas City area to start your day and in parts of northern Missouri. Now, thunderstorms are going to refire later today from KC to Wichita to Dodge City. Severe weather possible, I think, from Rapid City down towards Lyman, Colorado, and over towards North Platte. This area could see some hail as well. And of course, right in the heart of the red zone, there's a chance for hail, damaging winds, and an isolated tornado risk. Here's what's happening today. We've got both jets that we're going to be looking at here in terms of some extra help from the upper atmosphere and adding some energy. We are going to see our front stuck across the area. So we've had this front for days, I feel like now. It's waving back up. It's going to be the focus for showers and thunderstorms. It helps draw up more moisture, too, so heavy rain at times will be a concern. Take a look at this forecast right through the afternoon. Wichita, Kansas City, we've got storms for you by the rush hour home and continuing into your evening. St. Louis, a chance of a couple of thunderstorms, and then that lifting up into Iowa and into northern Illinois and into Wisconsin. So Chicago, by tomorrow morning, you could be waking up to a wet start to your day. If you were thinking about taking out the kayak or the paddleboard tomorrow morning, you're going to want to check the weather before you head out. Wichita, Kansas, for us, rain this morning. We'll get a break. Showers and storms back in this afternoon and early evening. Anna Ritis?
All right.
Bed late and got up early to look at what's happening. Now, a lot of folks paying attention to Invest 99L because it does have the potential to affect us in the islands as well as in the southeastern U.S. It's an invest, though. It doesn't have a name yet. It's not a tropical depression, but we certainly are watching developments with it. I want to mention Gaston, though, real quick.
Okay.
So it was a hurricane, came back to tropical storm. It will strengthen again to hurricane, we think, in the coming days, but it will stay out in the central Atlantic. And the main concern from Gaston will be maybe a swell heading to Bermuda or the eastern U.S. But let's talk about where we are in the hurricane season and why we really do pay attention to anything in the tropics right now, because we're getting into that peak. And really, at the end of August, we're ramping up to the peak in early September. About September 10th is the peak in the hurricane season. And there's a stat, I believe it's a quarter of all major hurricanes that have affected the U.S. Have happened during this time frame. So this is an important time to watch in the tropics, right? Let's take a look at what we are dealing with right now with Invest 99L. If you didn't know there was an invest here and you looked at the water vapor, you probably wouldn't look for anything, right? But we know that there's something there that we have been tracking for days, so we're keeping an eye on stuff. This is the vicinity that we're watching right here. So we're going to watch a couple of things. There's been some dry air, and you see that from the water vapor perspective, that little flare up of some orange. That's the mid-level moisture. There is an aircraft actually right now flying in, a NOAA research aircraft flying in through this area to get more information, and it's finding some very dry air at its flight level. So dry air is going to be a concern. Stronger wind shear is going to be a concern as we track the next couple of days in this area for the environment for Invest 99L. So not likely to strengthen in the near term. Now, this high pressure over the eastern U.S., this is a big factor as well. It's been the main steering flow so far, keeping it on that general westward progression, and will in the coming days. If there's a little weakness in this big ridge of high pressure, that would allow this to turn up and perhaps turn up along the west coast of Florida, or like the European model did overnight, maybe even turn it up here along the east coast of Florida. That said, it really is no signs of any real strengthening right now. What we know about the tropics, though, is things can change very quickly. And certainly this is an environment with very warm sea surface temperatures that, if you have an area of disturbed weather, track over this area and everything is just right, you can get something that ramps up pretty quickly. So this is why we're going to keep a close watch on what's happening with Invest 99L. Again, Tropical Storm Gaston, and you're not concerned about it because it's in the central Atlantic, but we're keeping a watch on it, A, for record-keeping purposes, and also because because the longer it stays out here, the more swell it's going to create, and that'll eventually emanate over into the eastern U.S. And I know you're still in beach mode out here in the eastern U.S. with your air temperatures continuing to be warm and your water temperatures warm as well. So we'll keep an eye on any swell and high surf in the coming days. Short term, not an impact. And of course, we'll see it increase back to hurricane status once it loses some of that shear that it's dealing with as well.
People had a lot of fun with Gaston on social media, so they definitely had a lot to talk about because of the name.
And they still will, as you saw. We got it for a number of days.